Welcome to the Grand Weaver. I'm Eric. I'm so excited to have you with us. We are here with Randy from Wilderness Fellowship. My lovely wife Heather is joining us for this episode, and we are in the beautiful Shalom cabin, the newest cabin at Wilderness Fellowship. So Heather and I are looking forward to spending some time tomorrow. It's supposed to be a beautiful day, just enjoying this incredible place. But what we'd love to do is hear from you how this thing started, the heart behind the ministry, and let's just have a conversation about it.
Sounds good. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah,
a lot of fun. Where do you start? It's been a ministry of about 52 years. Mm-hmm. If you want to go back to where it really began, I think the guilty party could be Minnehaha Academy in Minneapolis. Because my father went to high school there, and Mom actually grew up about 3 miles north of here.
Okay.
As a farmer's daughter, and they wanted their kids to have a Christian education, and so they sent their children to Minnehaha Academy. My dad, a PK, pastor's kid, went to Minnehaha Academy and fell in love with this little country girl and fell in love with the country at the same time. So what happened is that this property that we're on right now is actually a part of Grandpa's farm, but it was remote. So this is about 3 miles south, as I mentioned. But Dad and Mom went for a walk down here, mm-hmm. and there's a place just over the hill here where they found this little camping spot. And as they were walking through those places, my dad said the Lord just kind of began to stir things in his heart as to, could this someday be a larger camping type ministry or something like that? Now, Dad was 17 years old at that time. And
not too many 17-year-olds are thinking about that vision for the future.
Yeah, that's right. And yet he was, and now he's 91. Mm-hmm. So he's still living. And it's fun to have him walk through and see just what God is doing. But at that point, God began to stir in his heart about something bigger mm-hmm. than what they were experiencing. That kind of got built upon a little bit when they went to, were attending a church after they got married. Then they were attending a church in Minneapolis, mm-hmm. and were working with the youth of that church. And then they began to bring that youth up here. And as they did that, they even more saw how God was taking these kids out of the concrete jungle, mm-hmm. down in the cities that had not been involved in this kind of wilderness type setting at all. And they saw a unique, probably, openness and receptivity to the things of the Spirit, which just all the more caused Dad to want to see something happen.
Yeah.
So I've always used the term that it was like he was pregnant with this thing, but it was 20 years before God actually brought that idea to birth.
20
years. Wow. Can you imagine being pregnant for 20 years? No.
Yeah, that's probably an answer for you. Question for you, I think. Yeah.
But it was also the kind of a thing. I've heard a statement that says, God is preparing you mm-hmm. for what he has prepared for you.
Yeah.
And we look back at my dad's life and see how there have been so many things that God put into place, knowing that this was a school, so to speak, a training time that would be necessary when you're just starting a new thing like this. Yeah. And so God is so faithful to do that. And I came along in 1960, and then so have grown up pretty much my whole life with this dream and this vision, and naturally seemed to slide into that position of executive director here after my mom passed away. So it's been
52 years ago.
52 years ago,
when this place officially started. So how did that
happen? Yeah, it's really kind of a neat story. Back to that whole being pregnant for a long time kind of thing with this dream. My dad ended up going out to Bible school out in Seattle. Made the comment after graduating from Bible school, I'll do anything you want, God, except be a youth director in a church. Why? Because his heart was really set on trying to do this thing that he's had this been carrying, this vision, this dream. And while God was faithful to wait until Dad changed his mind and said, "Okay, God, I'll do anything you want to do." And so when Dad changed his mind, within a very short time, 5 different letters of call came for him to work in churches throughout the United States, 5 different places. So now he was faced with the choice of where do we go, and ended up landing at this church out in Seattle. And it was at that church, after being there for a couple of years, that we were at a family camp. I think the whole church, had gone out to a family camp, and the speaker that weekend touched on the verse of Hosea 2:14. And that verse says, "I will take my children into the wilderness, and there I will speak tenderly to them." Now, you're not going to find that exact wording in any of, I think it was maybe from the Phillips translation or something like that. It actually says, "I will allure her and draw her into the desert." Well, we weren't familiar with the desert as much as we were familiar with the wilderness, and it still kind of carried the same thing. But the key was the wilderness, and the whole purpose of God wanting to draw them into the wilderness was because he wanted to express his tenderness, his love for them. And Dad says that it was like the Lord took a penlight flashlight and lit up the words "the wilderness" and said, "That's what I want you to call that place back in Wisconsin." So all of a sudden, what he'd been pregnant with actually was something was beginning to happen, because God was speaking to him about that. And it was a very short time later that my grandfather, who owned this property back here in Wisconsin, called and said, "Do you still think God wants to do something with this property?" And Dad said, "Yes, and he has given me the name, the Wilderness." So Grandma and Grandpa then decided that they would will that to my mom and dad, and they actually turned it over to and started a 501c3 nonprofit organization and handed the Wilderness property, that original 93 acres, over to this baby corporation now, and went back to Seattle. Because there wasn't anything here. It was just a bunch of pasture and fields and trees and some leftover cows, probably.
And some crazy neighbors.
Yeah, there's probably some crazy neighbors. We could mention her, but no, we'll just leave her. We'll leave her there. But that's been, and so that was the beginning times, and then later God ended up moving us back to the Midwest again. I mean, soon, within a few years back, and so actually I landed on this property when it was officially the Wilderness at about the age of 12. And I've been here ever since. Can't get rid of me. So it's been a pleasure to watch this grow, to be a part of the growth. I think it's a true picture for me of sweat equity. I've got a lot. I've had my fingers in a lot of things here, but it's been an amazing walk, an amazing journey. To come to where we are today.
Yeah. So help us understand what the Wilderness has become today.
Okay. A place set aside. The mission statement to provide a place of refuge, peace, restoration, and hope. And a place to foster godly intimacy. So that people can grow deeper in their relationship, their personal relationship with Jesus, which has been at my Dad's heart, all along, is this deeper walk with him. Dad often said, "I just want to be the guy backstage that draws open the curtain so the drama of Jesus can unfold in somebody else's life." And that's been the motto that we've kind of picked up as a staff, and that's what I desire for us to do, because the show won't go on unless the curtain gets open. And in a place like this, we have lawns to mow and roads to grade and grass, or buildings to fix and fences to fix and trees to cut and firewood and all kinds of stuff. And that's what that's leading up to just the background maintenance to maintain a property. It actually has grown in acreage to about 250 acres now. God miraculously provided a few acres properties alongside the original 93 acres. But the heartbeat has always been through camping ministry, through retreats, through gospel music festivals that we used to have back in the 70s. We had 11 years of gospel music festivals back here. And then various buildings that God allowed us to build to work towards fulfilling that mission of providing a place of refuge, peace, restoration, and hope, and a place of growing deeper in your walk with the Lord. One of the things that grew then, started in 1990, was the development. It started out kind of as a demonstration of how to do log building, but it turned into a little tiny cabin that we built as a demonstration how you do log building. And that was like, well, I wonder what we'll do with this little cabin, tuck it in the woods and see what happens. Yeah. And we found that people wanted a place where they could go and be alone with the Lord. And so that has now grown to 11. This is cabin number 11 that we're in right now. And we find it. I find it amazing that God is bringing people from all over the United States. Mm-hmm. Originally, people were coming just from Minneapolis or some of the surrounding areas, but it's become known throughout the nation, I guess, as a place to go and spend time with Jesus. Mm-hmm. So it's been pretty exciting to be a part of that, and to see over this last year about 4,300 people have come. Mm-hmm. That was in 2023, I think, are the numbers that we had for that.
4,300 people.
4,300 who have come in one way, shape, or form, either to prayer cabins, or to the worship nights that we do, or to marriage retreats or conferences that we do. Most of what we do, though, is to just provide a place for people to come and to do their own ministry, their own programming. We're the curtain people. We're the curtain people. We got to open the curtains so that this can happen for others. Yeah.
So how many people does it take to run this property?
Now it takes a lot more. We used to, when Dad first started, we had to have a lot of volunteers, lots of volunteers. People from the church that he was at in Minneapolis were very tied in for all the years that he was pregnant, right? They were coming up here, but it wasn't officially the wilderness or anything. So it took Dad as the first director, and then we got a lot of students or kids that were coming from Teen Challenge in the cities, and they would look for some place that would be, or this kind of became a place where it was sort of a transition. It was a good, stable Christian environment, good hard work, and a safe place for them to go. So there was a lot of volunteers. In the early days, there was an awful lot of trails to cut and roads to build, and oh man, did we work? But there was all that preparation work that there was to do. So that grew. Then I've got 3 siblings, so there's 4 of us kids in the family, and they kind of grew and went away, and I just kept staying here and kept growing into work here, and got married, and that meant that 2 people now were on staff because I was kind of I actually worked for 6 years volunteer staff at the very beginning. That has continued to grow. The prayer cabins, the maintenance. This is the long answer to. There's 9 on staff now. I knew you were looking there, but it just didn't go from 1 to 9. Yeah. It took 52 years because we have office staff and maintenance staff, and so much has changed. But the heart of the ministry is the same. Mm-hmm. That this be a place where people can come and meet with Jesus. That's the passion of our heart, to be that place where they can come and be safe and just have an encounter with Jesus Christ. That really trips our trigger, because that's what drives us.
Yeah.
So who designs your cabins now?
Well, that falls pretty much on my wife. She is a great artist, and she'll just sit down and start sketching things. Or, this cabin that we're in, she thought, I think this one's going to be a little more rustic. So she would do that, kind of come up with the concept, and then she would also work on the decor inside. And did all the interior. She should have been an interior decorator, because she really does a great job with that.
She is an interior decorator.
She is. She's a Wonder Woman, actually. She just does so many different things. But she has come up with the plans and what the cabin is going to look like, with the help, in conjunction with, when we have, the way these cabins happen, actually, is somebody. Let me back up and say that a couple of the founding principles of the Wilderness, right from the very beginning, were that we operate only on donations. Deuteronomy 16:17 says, "Let each man give as he is able, according to the blessing he has received from the Lord." So that was a foundational core value for Mom and Dad. They did not want anybody to say, "I can't afford to go spend time with Jesus." So everything was operated on a donation basis. And some people said that will never work. Dad was pretty convinced that if God said that's the way we want it to work, then he'll do that. And that's what he has done. The other thing is that we made a determination not to go into debt. And so whenever we start a building project like the prayer cabins, or we start a fellowship center, which is our large meeting area, that I have to back up. The fellowship center was what taught us that we need to build debt-free. And it took 25 years to build that one, because we didn't have a large cash flow of funds, and just as donations were coming in. So what happens with the prayer cabins now is that somebody steps forward and says, "I want to fund a prayer cabin. I want to invest in other people's lives." And what's happening lately is that it's been people who have themselves come here and had this encounter with Jesus that has been so powerful and so transforming that they say, "I want to help that happen for other people." But operating debt-free and operating on donations only has been very interesting. Very interesting. And so I get the privilege, we get the privilege of just trusting the Lord every day for those needs. And when we think we should build another prayer cabin, may not be God's timing. You ever notice God's timing isn't necessarily our timing? Yeah. So we pretty much determined that when the finances are there, that's the green light to go. And then we just kick it in, and we work with the funder who funded the cabin. We work with them to create another cabin. So we sketch and they draw.
They're all unique then?
Every one of them is different, yeah. I'll let you in on a little secret out of the bag, but you would go to all the cabins, I think, and you would say, yeah, these are all different. But what we have found is that you can take the same floor plan and you can flip it like this and put the bed on another wall or the kitchen on another wall, and it looks completely different. But it allows us to be more efficient in that design. We have to hire those designs drawn by an architect now that it's gotten much more complicated. And so all of that has to be architecturally sound and designed and all of that. And so...
but they do each have their own character, and some of them have very unique designs.
Yeah, some of them are log. as in, just peeling the logs and actually doing the full scribe and everything, and like Lincoln logs. I grew up with Lincoln logs. I don't know if you guys even know what Lincoln logs are.
No, we know what they are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
We've
they're-
stepped on a few of them. Yeah.
Yeah, at night
Not
they
as
get
bad
you.
as Legos, but yeah.
But yeah, we built 2 of them like that. We built them off-site out in the field where we could get at it with the machinery. Then we numbered all the corners and had a whole crew that came and unstacked it, brought it into the woods, stacked it all back up like a giant Lincoln log set in just a very short period of time. Then another style of log building that we did is a dovetail style, and that one also, we built off-site. We actually built them in our shop and constructed them all and did all the drilling and all of the so on. Did it ourselves, and then when it was finishing with the stain and whatever, and then moved it out to site, and then did all the other final chinking and finishing. Yeah. And then others are more of a stick frame building. So they're all different. They're all different in character. Yeah. And I think it's interesting how you have people who have a favorite one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think oftentimes, and I'll share from my own experience, I had an opportunity to come here about a month ago, and right when this beautiful cabin was opening, but I got to stay in Mercy, which was the one that's in honor of your mom.
That's correct.
And I love one of the things about what we do here, we as in you, what you guys do in terms of praying over each guest and sharing a verse. Yeah. And of course, the verse that you guys prayed and shared over me that day was very applicable to the prayers that I had coming into this place. And so there was a sweetness to that experience in Mercy and reading about some of your mom's life and character. And when we meet with God in a place, there's a natural attachment to it. That's why I think even the founding verse about going into the wilderness, so often we think about going into the wilderness in the desert as a place where it's desolate and we don't meet with God. It's the hard place. And I was struck by this idea of building altars in the wilderness in a way, right? Because we met with God there. Yes. I'd love for you to share even what you shared with me about the idea of thin places.
It's a newer term to me. We had somebody who came and said, "This is a thin place," and I said, "Explain that to me. Explain that to me." Because I think this is a workplace. It's a lot of work. But what I've come to understand and see that is that when you have a place that is prayed over, dedicated to the Lord, to His glory, to His honor, for His name's sake, not to lift up any one of us, my dad or me or anybody, but to just glorify the Lord. And that is what drives everything that we do. Yeah. It's that God does something where the atmosphere of heaven seems to be so close to the atmosphere of earth that people come into this place and they are touched by Jesus. Just coming onto the property. I've had people who have said that. They've just driven onto the property and driven in, and they just felt this whoosh, this presence of the Lord come over them. And so that's what they mean by that thin place. It's where that atmosphere of heaven and the atmosphere of the earth is close. I don't think we can see it, but I think we feel it. Yeah. There is something unique about that. Yeah. And to have that gal make mention of that, that brought joy to my heart, because that's what we desire. Yeah. I've often said we have the best guarantee in the business. And that's really found in James 4:8, where God says, if you draw near unto me, what does He say He will do? He will draw near. Yeah. So that happens, and within that setting, tears flow easily, healing flows easily. Part of the mission for these cabins is to provide that place where there's not any distractions. Yeah. And so we try to make them so comfortable and so nice. Renee said, when I get done with the cabin, my hope is that when people walk in, they'll say, I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
And
I think she accomplished it with
and
this
she
one.
does that.
Yeah.
People have said that, and that just brings joy to Renee's heart. But
Yeah.
that's the presence that we desire.
I love the heart of wilderness, and I think that's why I resonated with you sharing that story with me, because I think it captured your heart with the few times that we've had an opportunity to connect. And I experienced that myself. As I was here last time, I was met by God, and I spend a lot of quiet time with Him. But there was something about this experience here where He was opening me up and speaking to me in a way that was really tender and sweet, and just sitting out. There's one of the things outside I loved in these little screened-in porches, and the deer were running through, and just something about that atmosphere. I was like, Lord, how about a bear? Because didn't send the bear through. That would have been pretty cool.
Not for you, but we did for one other lady.
All right.
There was.
They can
there
stay
was
away
one
as
lady.
far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well.
But I love that heart. And also, in case anybody missed it, when you talk about running on donations, if you can't afford to come and stay overnight in this place, you're welcome to come and stay in this place. And whatever you're able to give to keep supporting wilderness. But that's the heart, as you're saying.
Yeah.
Anybody who needs to come and meet with God can come and enjoy these beautiful prayer cabins. There's actually campsites on the property that can be enjoyed. Jerusalem Hill.
Yeah.
Maybe share a little
There's
bit
a story
about
behind that.
Yeah.
When the property was first received by and given to Dad and Mom, and maybe even before that, because they were using that area, they were told that the one who originally homesteaded this property named that hill Jerusalem Hill. Nobody knows why. I think God knows why, and maybe it would be really interesting to know his why. But only God knew that someday that would be a place right at the base of that hill. There's a cross that we've put up there, and that whole picture of the cross isn't on top of the hill like we picture Calvary, but the cross reminds us of God's work and His desire and His love that is poured out. But that was named Jerusalem Hill when we came here, and Dad said, let's just keep it the same name. And that, on top of that hill, actually is where it all started. I don't know if I touched on that, but that my dad put a house trailer up there, and that's where they brought those kids in the early days. Jerusalem Hill transformed lives back then, and now it's still transforming lives today. And I love that God is still at work.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And desires to meet with people in intimate ways.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that we want to be part of with the Grand Weaver podcast is inviting people in to the Wilderness Fellowship story. And so those who may have been stirred by the heart of this ministry, how might they get involved? So what are maybe some of the needs in terms of volunteers? Wood chopping. I've seen it's a lot of wood over there, but maybe share a few of the things that would be a blessing to the ministry and other things that could help.
Yeah, appreciate that so very much. Like I mentioned earlier, the wilderness has really been built by literally over this 52 years, I would say hundreds, if not thousands of volunteers who have come. And there's so many different types of jobs that need to be done. And we heat a lot of buildings with firewood, so we've tried to become more efficient with that. And we don't actually get the lumber or the logs off of this property. We found it was cheaper for us to maybe have a semi come in, and then we have a crew come in and split it and stack it in baskets and all of that. But those types of things are needs that we have help with. There's cleaning. We have got crews that come and help with cleaning, or there's trail trimming. We've got miles of trails on the now 250 acres of property, and those branches like to close in, and so we get to say, here, take the clippers and just go clean. The needs are mounting with all of the costs, and so it has never been our policy to go and ask for donations. We have like a hard ask, write out a check. If God prompts somebody to do that, then we rejoice in the provision of God. We do have a vision for 9 more of these prayer cabins. And yet we're committed to waiting for the green light to go ahead and build that cabin. So if somebody comes forward, wants to build another prayer cabin, we have 9 sites out here that have been picked already as potential spots. We walk through with them. But as everybody knows, it takes a lot of dollars to make that happen.
Yeah, so what is that today?
What it costs to build a prayer cabin now, this one that we're sitting in is somewhere around $76,000, which is crazy because the first one that I built in 1990 was like $8,600 or $6,800. Maybe it was $6,800. It was like, and everything is just going through the wall or through the ceiling. And so it takes more patience to wait, I guess. Sometimes we would have a little bit, well, every one of those were a wait until God provided. It was interesting. When the first one was built, it was 4 years before the next one was built. Then 4 years before the next one was built. And then I think it was probably 2 years. So God was picking up the speed. And then, it's just getting faster and faster. And over this last year, last 2 years, we've opened up 3 more prayer cabins and a new shower house.
Yeah.
Well,
But we don't have anybody right now who's in the wings until God prompts them.
Yeah.
And we're willing to wait. There's other things that can be done, but to provide that place where people can come. We've got people now who are coming from all over the United States. That seems crazy to me. Why would people drive all the way from Louisiana to spend 3 nights?
Right.
Except when I asked her, why did you come here? She said, I landed on your website. The Spirit of God just touched my heart and said, that's where I want you to go. And she got in the car and drove. And she came and had some time with the Lord.
Yeah.
Can I share one other story about that? We had a lady that was new. We have a lot of new people that are coming and a lot of repeat guests.
Which is partly the heart behind getting to 20.
True, that's right. Because I want it's hard to turn people away, or to have people say it took me 3 months to find a date that would work for me. I was in the office one day, and a couple came in who had been in here a number of times, and we were checking them in, and we try to be family around here. We get to know these people that are coming, and they're, we get excited. We see their name on the board, like, they're coming again, that'll be fun. But they came in, and we were talking with them, doing the check-in, and another lady walked through the door and just stood behind this couple there, just waiting patiently till I got finished with them. During the course of the conversation with that couple, they kept mentioning how God shows up when they come to these prayer cabins. Every time they said, God showed up for this, and God showed up for that, and His presence was just so overwhelming and met them in their need.
Yeah.
As I was talking with them, I looked over the shoulder of the gal to the new lady that was standing right back there waiting, and tears were running down her cheeks. And as she was, trying to hide that, I think I finished up with this couple. I turned to her and I said, hello, my name is Randy, and I'm just so glad you're here. Are you okay? And she looked at me and she said, I think so. Why? And I said, well, it just looked to me like your eyes were leaking a little bit. And I said, what's going on? And she said, well, I stood here and I listened to you talk with that other couple. And they kept talking about how God showed up. And when she said that, the dam broke. And she's just standing there in my office, just bawling. And through the tears, she's trying to say, but what if God doesn't show up for me? I looked at her and I said, why are you here? She said, I need to hear from Him. I need to draw near to Him. Eventually, that's what she said. And I went, that's what I was waiting for you to say, because of the verse that I quoted earlier, and that we're very familiar with God, where God says, draw near unto me, and I will draw near unto you. I said, so I can guarantee you That if your purpose and your plan is to come and spend time drawing near unto him, God's true to his word. And he's going to show up. We took her up to the cabin, got her settled in. She was here for 2 nights or 3 nights or something like that. She walked back into the office like she had been on the mountain with Moses. Yeah. She was just radiant. She said, I have never, ever, ever experienced anything like this in my life. And she was just speechless, really. I mean, yeah, she said that stuff, but she just didn't have. Yeah. And so this is what we experience over and over again. What did we do? We drew back the curtain. Yeah. It's just drawing open the curtain so the drama of Jesus can unfold. And he promises to show up when you draw near unto him. Yeah. We've got the best job in the whole place because we get to see all of these opportunities, all of these times. Yeah. For literally thousands of people now who have just had that. If you ever question that, and you probably did this when you were in the cabin, is you probably read in the journals. Yeah. Every one of the cabins has that journal, and when you read in that journal, oh man, it's just like. Yeah.
And I made my own entry in that journal.
Yeah, good. Yeah. I'm glad that you did.
And that's why my wife is here on this. We didn't, just so you guys know, we didn't plan this trip to record a podcast. This trip was because in my time of meeting with God, as he was speaking to me about some of my own identity things and just really pouring into me in an intimate way, he really strongly encouraged me in those moments in the wee hours of the morning to bring my wife back here, for her to have that experience.
I'm glad he brought you.
And also to invite my son. And so the intent is for my son and I to come up here as well, for them to have their own experience meeting directly with God. Because what he was saying to me was, hey, you can speak life into your wife and to your son, but I need to speak into them directly. And so I love that. That's what we're coming expecting tomorrow. As we kind of unpack and just spend some time here together and with God and enjoying this 250 acres during the leaves changing in the fall. I mean, just all of the things, these incredible buildings, the uniqueness of them, and so I'm just so thankful that we get to be here. And so hey, Randy, we're going to be there. I'd love to share your story. So that's why we're here tonight, setting up. We're breaking all the rules. We're setting up technology and all the things here just for a little while, because we really want to give people a sense of what they could experience in this place. Because even I didn't know about this gem of a place until we met at my house. Actually, you came to an event at my house a year and a half ago, or whatever that was. Absolutely. And finally, just this year, I actually came. And why have I not been here 20 times? Because now I want to come back all the time. And so with that, the invite is, if you resonate, if you want to come and experience this place, if you happen to be in the United States of America, apparently, it seems like that's kind of the
and other countries.
The range,
We're getting people from other countries who are coming. Country called Minnesota, no, country Canada coming in, and from long ways. I don't know what it costs an Uber driver, but they're flying into Minneapolis and then Ubering up here. That's an hour and a half.
Yeah. Wow.
And then Ubering back, and even from Africa, a number of people have come. They've been in the States, I think, for something, and have asked, where do I go to find a place of rest with the Lord? People say the wilderness. And so technology has made us seen, and we're just so excited to. I love that. We just be the curtain drawers.
And so if you're stirred and you're looking for that time where you want to draw near to God, we invite you to come to Wilderness. If you are stirred to come and serve,
absolutely
come and serve, because there's lots of things that need to be done in this place. And if you're stirred, God has provided you with some resources, and you have a heart for supporting the building of another cabin in this place for people to meet for a long time, right? We're not talking just next year. This is when you start thinking eternal perspective, and then even backing it up to in our lifetimes. It is beautiful if we can get to 20.
I would love that.
Yeah. So that's
I would love that. There's another story behind that 20, but that's all up to God.
Yeah,
and we wait on him daily, wait on him, calling on him to do his perfect work, to do his perfect will and his perfect time.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of a place that we've witnessed that happens.
Yeah. So let's close with one last thing.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to share with you this encounter that I had with God calling me to start this podcast, and I shared the name with you. And then what did you share with me about your wife?
My wife is a weaver.
Yeah.
She is. Yeah. And I found it interesting. I think some of the discussion that kind of struck me. You're talking about the difference between the warp and the weft, and the warp are the strings that are constant. They're the ones that you separate, and then you put the different threads through, and those stay constant. They're the same for that whole project until that all gets wound off. And it just seemed to me that consistency is like God. He is faithful. He's consistent. He doesn't change. But what he can do is put different weft through. And when you do that, the pattern is completely different.
Yeah.
It can be this, it looks like it's completely different, but the thing that remains the same. Have we heard this before? God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. The thing in weaving that remains the same is the warp that gets wrapped around. But God weaves people through that to create a design, a pattern, a picture, something beautiful that's different every time by God's working the treadles. It was a neat picture for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me as well.
This whole picture and name, I just love the Grand Weaver. Yeah. I think that is fabulous, and what God is weaving together in ministries all over the United States. Yeah. I'm excited to see what God is going to do through this.
I'm excited that we get to be part of it, and we get to enjoy one another's stories and just hearing your heart behind Wilderness and seeing where this goes. Yeah. And just like we shared with your crazy neighbor, Diane. I'm going to say it.
So now podcast. You said it.
Yep. So you can look her up.
I've known Diane since I was
but just
12.
Loving how these stories are unfolding and trusting that we're going to circle back in a few years and just go, you see what God did.
That's what that's my biggest heart's desire. Yeah. Look what God has done. Yeah. I don't want anybody to say, look what Randy did, or look what Dick did, or look what God has done. And I know that's your mission.
Yeah, because he's the Grand Weaver, and that's why it's called the Grand Weaver,
Fabulous.
Right? It's so beautiful.
I love it.
Randy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It's really great to visit with you a little bit here. Look forward to what God has in the future.
Absolutely. All right. Blessings, everyone.